Привет всем! С вами я, Janey, и это How Janey Learned Russian, and you can too. We are working through our course on the cases, making sense of them, figuring out when you need what case, understanding that sometimes you just need a certain case, even though it doesn't make sense to your English brain. And as fate would have it, today is one such example of a time when we're using accusative case, even though it doesn't make sense to our English brain. There's going to be a lot of anti-Englishisms in today's video. So today we're talking about using accusative case when we're expressing frequency, how often you do something, and duration, как долго, how long did you do that, for example. We're also going to be talking about days of the week and how they actually get accusative case, even though our English brain wants to put them into prepositional case. So we'll be working on that today. So, интересный кусочек информации дня. Куда надо пойти в Москве? Что надо увидеть? Надо пойти в Коломенское. Коломенское. So, Коломенское was kind of like a country resort. I mean, now it's right in the middle of Moscow, but back in the day when it was built in the 17th century, even the 16th century, it was very much kind of a like outside of the city residence for some of the tsars. And so you can go there now, and it has some of the oldest structures in Moscow, some of the oldest churches. So for example, look at this one. This one was built in 1550, 1528, 1649. Like, this is incredible. And what I really love about this is, for example, in this building, now they've restored it. The original was kind of eventually burnt down or torn down, but this was that little Peter the Great would have run around in this little summer home. Can you believe it? So this is where Alexei the First lived. And so little Peter the Great would have been running around in here. And that's all in this kind of village. It's like a village or a country estate, even though now it's right in the middle of Moscow. Back in the days, this would have been kind of the dacha for the tsars. So обязательно надо пойти в Коломенское. Хорошо. Вот. Real quick, today we are going to get some English out of our brain. We're going to practice days of the week in Russian. And even though we say on Monday, that does not mean we're just going to say на понедельнике, right? Our English brain wants to do that. And I know you're shaking your fist at me right now and you're saying, but Janey, you told us if we say in, on, at, or about, it needs prepositional case. Okay, yes. But you also are responsible to learn some exceptions, some anti-English isms. And here is one of them. When you say on what day of the week, it gets v plus accusative case. So let's look at the days of the week, and you'll see that this really only affects some of the days of the week, because only some of the days of the week are feminine singulars. So let's look at it. So we have понедельник, понедельник, the week is starting, right? So понедель, meaning week, понедельник. Masculine. So if you want to do something on Monday, в понедельник. Что ты делаешь в понедельник? What are you doing on Monday? Next one, вторник. So if you've learned your ordinal numbers, meaning первый, второй, третий, четвертый, etc., you're going to recognize втор in there, meaning second, the second day of the week. Not a feminine singular, so it doesn't change. So if you want to ask somebody what they're doing on Tuesday, что ты делаешь во вторник? Вот. Next one, среда, средний, meaning the middle, yeah? Now that one is a feminine singular, so listen to this. В среду. And notice the stress shift. We go from среда to now suddenly в среду. Что ты делаешь в среду? Вот. Next one, четверг, четвертый день. Четверг, not a feminine singular, doesn't change. В четверг. Вот. Пятница, the fifth day of the week. Пятница, number 5, пять. Not to be confused with пьяница, which I used to confuse these words. I used to say, сегодня пьяница. Today is drunkard. Today is a drunk day. And in my mind, that made perfect sense, because everybody in Moscow got drunk on Fridays. But no, it comes from the number 5, пять. Okay, anyway, so if you want to say on Friday, we're going to get a feminine, we get accusative ending, because it's a feminine singular. В пятницу. Что ты делаешь в пятницу? Вот. Суббота, the Sabbath. For any of you who speak Latin languages, this is very common. Sábado, for example, sábado. Суббота, meaning the Sabbath. Субботу, по-русски. And then lastly, the resurrection, воскресенье, the Sunday. And that one doesn't change either because it's not a feminine singular. So there you go. Those are the days of the week. These are going to come in handy again later in the lesson when we start saying things like every Thursday, every Saturday, etc., which are also going to get accusative case. So make sure you know the days of the week so you can get the most out of the rest of this lesson. Okay, so first we're looking at the word every, okay? And it behaves like an adjective. So whatever it's describing, it's going to behave like an adjective. So лето, for example, every summer. Каждое лето отключают горячую воду. Okay, interesting little fact here. I have no idea why they do this, but in the summertime in Moscow, they turn off the hot water. I don't understand it. I don't get it. Like, and it's, yeah, for a whole month, and it's miserable. And I remember I used to have to boil pots of water on the stove and then take it to the bath. And yeah, so I do not understand the science behind that or the history behind that. But yeah, каждое лето в Москве отключают горячую воду. Я не понимаю. Okay, next one. These are some memes. Every night. Okay, so ночь is a feminine singular. So sure enough, our word каждый is going to get accusative feminine. So я каждую ночь. And the little zombie says, ура, gaming! Yeah? But then the next morning, я каждое утро. And the zombie says, что я наделал? Right? Meaning, what have I done? Okay? So notice that каждую ночь. You're describing a feminine singular, so it's going to get accusative case. Вот. So now, oh, by the way, we just watched this movie in my intermediate classes through Patreon, and we watched this movie, which is Ирония судьбы или с легким паром. It's a very common movie to watch for New Year's celebrations, and there's a famous line from it where he says, у нас такая традиция. Каждый год 31 декабря мы с друзьями ходим в баню. So every year on the 31st of December, my friends and I go to the banю. And he says it over and over again in the movie. So каждый год, every year. Вот. Okay, so now I'm going to ask you some questions and I want you to answer. Now, if you want to get the most of this exercise, I want you to repeat back the каждый phrase in your answer. Imagine you're getting paid by the word. Answer me with as much detail as you possibly can, okay? Repeat the каждый phrase in your answer. Хорошо. Что вы делаете каждый день? Что вы делаете каждый день? Хорошо? Например, я каждый день гуляю. Я стараюсь. Это не правда. Но я стараюсь гулять каждый день. I try to гулять каждый день. Вот. Okay, next one. Что вы делаете каждое утро? Лето is not a feminine singular. So we're not getting that ую ending here. We're just getting a good old-fashioned neuter nominative ending. Что вы делаете каждое лето? Okay. Каждое лето мы с детьми ездим на пляж. Мы ездим на пляж. Каждое лето. Иногда 2 раза в лето, иногда 3 раза в лето, но обязательно каждое лето мы ездим на пляж, потому что недалеко от нас. 3 часа от нас. Вот. Окей? Следующий вопрос. Что вы делаете каждую субботу? Что вы делаете каждую субботу? So суббота is a feminine singular. So sure enough, we're putting it into accusative case. Now, our English brains are thinking, well, why do you need an accusative case? You're not doing anything to the every Saturday. But this is just an anti-Englishism. We just learned that this is how you say it in Russian. Что вы делаете каждую субботу? Каждую субботу у меня урок, да? У меня урок русского языка в 11 часов. And you can come to that урок if you join the membership over on Patreon. У нас урок каждую субботу в 11 часов. Вот. Next one. Что вы делаете каждую осень? Whoa, okay, the fact that we just got a каждую right here about the fall, about the autumn, tells us that осень is what gender? Осень is feminine. Keep that in mind the next time you want to say something about the fall, right? What a beautiful fall. So now you remember, oh, well, каждую осень seems to tell us that осень is a feminine. So, каждую осень мы делаем фото, потому что я очень люблю осень, и поэтому мы с детьми делаем фото в лесу или с тыквами, например, да, потому что я очень люблю осень. Окей? И, конечно, мы едим тыкву каждую осень. Вот. Что вы делаете каждый год? Что вы делаете каждый год? Окей, хорошо. Каждый год, обычно раз в год, иногда 2 раза в год, мы ездим домой, на мою родину, Юта. Да, мы ездим к моим родителям, и мы ездим в мой родной штат. Вот, к бабушке, к дедушке. Окей, очень хорошо. So, I hope you answered those questions, repeating the каждый phrase to get it a little bit more stuck in your head. Хорошо. So, now, another use of accusative case is to express how many times a blank you do something, maybe 3 times a week, 5 times a week, 4 times a day, etc. So you can use either каждый, which we just practiced, or you use this phrase, раз в. Now, what I want you to notice is when we get the numbers 2, 3, 4, we're going to get the word раза, and you'll learn all about this in the genitive case chapter. And then once we get up to 5 and above, we just go back to 5 раз, okay? There's no разов, by the way. That's a weird glitch in the grammar. It just doesn't have a genitive plural. So, хорошо. So you could do something раз в неделю, which would be once a week. You could do something раз в месяц. You could do something 2 раза в неделю, 3 раза в час, 5 раз в день, etc. So you're going to say however many times plus the word в plus the month, day, week in accusative case. So here's a funny meme over here. Делай так всего 2 раза в день. So this is a meme. You can find a bunch of these all over the internet. Where it says, do this just 2 times a day and your back won't hurt anymore. So, and then it has all sorts of like insane poses and everything. So this is a meme that you can find on the internet. So do this just 2 times a day and your back won't hurt anymore. Делай так всего 2 раза в день. And всего means just, like only just, etc. Okay? Then here's an example too about how often you should be eating these foods in a week. Сколько раз в неделю мне следует есть? How often do I need to eat бобовые, например, 3 раза в неделю. Красное мясо 1 раз. Птицу 2-3 раза. So you can kind of see the way this раз is changing, etc. And then over here, we have a full body тренировка 5 раза в неделю, 5 times a week. Кстати, я занимаюсь спортом 5 раз в неделю. Я поднимаю тяжести 3 раза в неделю. Я занимаюсь HIIT, да, то есть это high intensity interval 2 раза в неделю. И я гуляю каждый день. Я гуляю на улице каждый день. Okay. So now, using that phrase about however many times a blank you do something, I want you, and don't resist the urge to go back to каждый, because I want you to practice this times a week, times a day, etc. I want you to answer these questions. Again, answer with the full phrase to get your practice. So I'm going to ask you some questions. Here we go. Как часто вы занимаетесь спортом? Как часто вы занимаетесь спортом? Да? Я занимаюсь спортом 5 раз в неделю. Но мой муж, он спортсмен, он занимается бразильским джиу-джитсу каждый день. Каждый день. Вот. Окей, следующий. Как часто вы пьете алкоголь? Алкоголь может быть пиво, может быть водку, виски. Как часто вы пьете алкоголь? И вино, да, люди очень любят вино. Окей? Я сама очень редко пью алкоголь. Серьезно, может быть, раз в год. Все. Окей. Как часто вы ездите на пляж? Да, я сказала раньше, что я каждое лето. Но в год обычно 3 раза в год. Обычно 2 раза в лето. И иногда мы ездим весной 1 раз. Потому что у нашего друга есть дом на пляже. И поэтому это Airbnb. И когда нет гостей, мы можем использовать вот этот дом. Поэтому мы ездим на пляж 3 раза в год, иногда 4 раза в год. И обычно 2 раза в лето или даже больше. Окей? Как часто вы ходите на концерты? Ох, мы с мужем очень любим музыку. Мы также очень любим музыкальный театр и комедий-клуб. Поэтому мы ходим на концерты обычно раз в месяц. Раз в месяц, да? Окей, следующее. Как часто вы пьете кофе или чай? Как часто вы пьете кофе или чай? Ну, если вы хорошо знаете Джейни, вы знаете, что она любит чай. Я пью чай каждый божий день, да, то есть каждое утро, иногда 2 раза в день, иногда или даже 3 раза в день я пью чай. Кофе очень редко пью, потому что у меня голова болит после кофе. Поэтому я люблю кофе. Такой вкусный. Иногда я пью кофе, все равно. То есть, может быть, 4 раза в год. И все. Окей. Как часто вы платите ипотеку? Что такое ипотека? That's your mortgage. I think that looks like a Greek word of some sort. So maybe leave in the comments below if you know the origins of that word. Но как часто вы платите ипотеку? How often do you pay your mortgage? Мы платим нашу ипотеку каждый месяц, то есть раз в месяц. Раз в месяц, а обычно в начале месяца. Хорошо. Вот. Now we get to our last one, which is как долго. How long? And this one, our English brains want to get in there and put in a preposition that says something like for, and then it just totally screws up your grammar. No, just stop. Just listen to me right now. Stop everything you're doing. Just listen. In Russian, you just go straight to accusative case. No for. There's no for, okay? So let's look at this meme here. Весь день не спал, всю ночь не ел. Понятное дело, устаешь. Okay, so all night you didn't sleep. All day you didn't sleep. All night you didn't eat. No wonder you're tired. Вот, okay? So I want you to just look, we're just going to read some of these examples and notice there is no for in there. Our English brain wants to put it in there. It's not in there. Also, we're going to take a word like весь, всё, всю, and those are going to come in really handy for this because you're going to say something like all night, all day. Also, another way you can express that is this word целый, целое, целую, okay? Which also means the entire or the whole, okay? So let's read some of these sentences, and I just want you paying attention how there's no for in them, okay? Как долго вы изучаете русский? Как долго вы изучаете русский? And then they answer, год. See, notice there's no, I have been studying Russian for 1 year. And notice we don't put this into past tense. We just go straight for it. We go present tense. Как долго вы изучаете русский? How long you are studying Russian? Да, год. А я, например, изучаю русский 23 года. Да, 23 года. Вот. Okay? So this next one. Ты долго спал? Ты долго спал? In English, we would say, did you sleep for a long time? For a long time? Нет, по-русски нет. Ты долго спал? And then he says, нет, только 5 часов. So he wants to say, I only slept for 5 hours. Again, there's no for in Russian. Только 5 часов. Все. Okay, now look at this one. This one's mind-blowing for English speakers. Как долго ты живешь здесь? So this is a great phrase for if you meet a Russian in your town, you might say, oh, how long have you been living here? Wow, our English grammar is so unnecessarily complicated. Have been living. So in Russian, he said, всю жизнь, даже здесь родился. I have been living here my whole life. For my whole life, I even was born here. So how long have you been living here? Next one. Как долго будешь в Москве? And then they're going to say, я одну неделю. The number 1 gets cases as well. So how long will you be in Moscow for? How long will you be in Moscow? For 1 week. For 1 week. There's no for in Russian. Одну неделю. Одну неделю. Next one. Что ты любишь делать весной? And then look at this. They want to say, I sit at home all spring. I spend the whole spring sitting at home. Я всю весну сижу дома. У меня ужасные аллергии. Ох, бедняжка. Кстати, весна в Москве не очень приятное время. Нет, не очень приятное время. Russians famously do not like their spring because all the snow melts and it's just a big muddy, stinky mess. So, вот. Okay, so notice he's saying all spring, the entire spring, and same thing if you wanted to do all summer, все лето, например. Что ты, муж, делал сегодня? Okay, so what did your husband do today? And then I'm going to say he sat and watched television the entire day, the whole day. Смотрел телевизор целый день. Смотрел телевизор целый день. Okay, let's bring it to life with some practice. Okay, please repeat the phrase back to me so you're getting maximum practice, okay? Как долго вы живете в вашем городе? How long have you been living in your city? Okay, so now in English we want to say, well, I've been living in this city for 10 years. No, there's no for. In Russian, there's no for. So listen to how I answer. Я живу в этом городе почти 8 лет. Я живу в этом городе 8 лет. Okay? Как долго вы изучаете русский язык? Как долго вы изучаете русский язык? Я изучаю русский язык 23 года. There's no for. There's no for. There's no for. I am studying Russian 23 years. Bam. That's how you say it in Russian. Что вы можете делать целый день и не скучать? Что вы можете делать целый день и не скучать? What can you do all day and not get bored? Да? О, я могу гулять. Я очень люблю гулять. И я могу танцевать целый день и не скучать. Я очень люблю танцевать. Я могу танцевать всю ночь, весь вечер, каждый день. Я люблю гулять, танцевать. Я никогда не буду скучать. Вот. Okay, last one. Что вы всю жизнь, this is a great friend, your whole life, your entire life. Что вы всю жизнь любите делать? Что вы всю жизнь любите делать? Опять. Я всю жизнь люблю танцевать и петь. In fact, I have a video of me singing and dancing as a 4-year-old. I would have been 3. maybe I'll put a clip. Maybe I'll put a clip in there real fast to reward those people who watched all the way to the end of this super long video. Хорошо, я серьезно говорю. Я всю жизнь люблю танцевать и петь. И все. Да. Вот. Okay, so now we're gonna wrap it up real fast again so hopefully keep watching because that video of me singing and dancing is gonna be at the end of the video. Okay, хорошо. We have class every Saturday. У нас урок каждую субботу. У нас урок каждую субботу. We have lessons 3 times a week, which is true. If you come join my group classes over on Patreon, we have lessons 3 times a week. У нас уроки 3 раза в неделю. У нас уроки 3 раза в неделю. I have been studying Russian for 23 years. Hopefully you were listening to me. Я изучаю русский язык 23 года. No 4. No 4. Please, if that's the only thing you walk away from this video, there's no 4 when you express how long you've been doing something. Okay? I have loved languages my whole life, which is very true. I had my first experience with foreign languages when I lived in Israel as a 9-year-old, and I got to study Arabic in school. Я люблю языки всю жизнь. Всю жизнь. Всю жизнь. Да? We danced all night. That's my idea of a good time, if I had energy. Мы танцевали. Ночь is a feminine, so it's going to go всю ночь. Аж до утра. Да, мы танцевали всю ночь. And on that note, here is your reward. A video of маленькая Janey, как она танцевала и пела. И всю жизнь она любит танцевать и петь. Вот, хорошо, это все на сегодня.